Hey, this is Atkins Estimond from Hightown on Starz, and I'm sitting here with Elias, and you're listening to the Man Cave Chronicles.
Welcome to another episode of the Man Cave Chronicles.
Welcome to the party, pal!
You're my boy, Blue!
Yo, Adrian!
A podcast with interviews of amazing guests from the world of pop culture.
Oh, yeah!
TV.
Nice!
Movies.
Oh, I love the movies!
Comedy and more. From deep inside the Man Cave, your host, Elias.
Atkins, welcome to the cave.
Hey, thank you for having me, Elias.
How are you, man? What's new with you?
Trying to not lose my mind during this sheltering in place, and just trying to stay busy and keep positive.
Yeah, how you dealing with that? What have you been doing?
I picked the guitar back up. Started, trying to learn some new songs, remembering some old songs that I forgot. I have a 1-year-old, so that takes
you're
up
busy.
a lot of the day. Oh yeah. I am in full-on dad mode right now. So, but it's going good.
Yeah. So you've been busy the last few years. Yeah, you mentioned, I saw online that you play music. You've done a few roles on TV shows like The Resident, Lodge 49. You had a role in Dumb and Dumber 2, and we'll talk about a few of those. And then you got the new show that's coming out on Starz called Hightown. But I want the listeners to get to know a little bit more about you. Where are you originally from?
Actually, I'm originally from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I was born there. My parents are actually from Haiti, both my mom and my dad, but I was born in Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, how was it growing up there?
I really loved Florida. It was awesome being close to the beach. That's something that I really miss. I mean, we moved up to Atlanta back in '97, and I love Atlanta, and I'm like, this is home. But that's one thing that that's a void that's never been filled, is being able to go to the beach kind of just whenever you want,
Yeah.
And also it's still, I have a lot of family there. My grandfather's there. And also there's just like a lot of nostalgia. Like every time I go back, it just hits me, But it was a great place growing up for the time that we were there.
How old were you when you moved to Atlanta?
I started the 5th grade here,
Okay.
so I'm not sure how old that is. But I started the 5th grade here.
So growing up a kid in Atlanta, like what were you into? What did you enjoy doing?
Oh man, I was into all kinds of stuff, but the stuff the kids do, hanging out. I was in a band, like I said, I play music. In high school, I joined a band with some friends, but, pretty normal stuff, going to movies, chilling. I wasn't too much of I would say a good kid. I mean, I got into the trouble that any normal kid gets into, but nothing too wild.
Yeah, I remember those days. So, like,
yeah.
so, like, growing up, did you know you wanted to get into the acting world?
Well, actually, when I was younger, I was in a Boys and Girls Club. Me and my brother were both in the Boys and Girls Club, and he's a little bit older, about 2 years older than I was. I am. And there was a performing arts center called Lovewell, and it was a part of the Boys and Girls Club, and my brother was a part of it, and I would go watch him do shows, and I was like, I want to do that, and that was kind of the first experience I had with, like, acting like that. I mean, we'd take field trips to go see, plays and stuff like that, and even then I started kind of feeling like, oh, this is really cool, and, like there was like a bit of magic in that world. When you go into the theater for the first time as a kid and they're doing things on stage that you've never seen done before, it is kind of like it's like a little bit of the magic that's still left in the world. And so my brother actually was a big influence watching him perform, and I actually tried to get into the program when I was a kid, but I was super shy, and they had me come in audition, and I totally froze up. I literally, they were like, "What's your name?" And I was like, like not even enough to say my name. So they were like, all right, well, kind of good seeing you, and we'll, see you later. And I didn't, and I knew I blew it in that moment. But I I always was like, the next time I get a chance to do this, I'm going to do it. And, when my brother kept acting, when he went to high school, he was in theater. And that kind of was the next opportunity I had. And I jumped on it, and I was in theater all 4 years, was part of the Thespian Society in high school. So I'd say from a pretty early age, I knew I wanted to act, but I wasn't 100% sure that it was going to be my career until later on in life.
So when you got older, how did you start taking like acting lessons? How did that go?
Yeah, I was actually working at the Transit Authority here in Atlanta, and I had been playing in a band. Initially, I thought that the band was going to be my career, and I realized I wasn't as good as I thought I was, and so I kind of let that dream go. But I was working. I had a lot of friends who were still acting, a lot of friends who were still in theater and doing theater in town locally. And I'd go see their shows, and it just so happened that in Atlanta, the industry started to really pick up and boom.
Oh, yeah.
And, so I was like, wow, I was like, I'm in this place. I have, I'm already in this world, via some friends. I was like, I think I'm going to give this a shot. And I actually got laid off from my job, like randomly. And initially I was kind of upset about it, but then I was like, there's actually probably a great opportunity for me to really throw myself fully into acting. So I got a nice little severance package, and I took that, and I started taking classes and, doing improv and going to different workshops and stuff like that. And I was able to get myself a good agent in town, and, kind of one thing rolled into another, and, some opportunities started piling up, and I tried to make the best of it.
How would you describe like your experiences in the acting classes?
It was a little different, starting in theater or starting on the stage. There's a little difference between the stage and acting for the screen. I mean, acting is acting, but there are differences. And coming from having a theater background, it was a little different doing on-camera classes. There was a bit of an adjustment there. On the stage, you have to use your whole body, your whole instrument. You got to project and use your voice. And when you're on camera, it's like that's not really great. Like, being super loud and very big in your movements doesn't really translate well on camera. So that was something that I kind of had to overcome and kind of learn those skill sets for film and TV. But I really loved it. Like, as soon as I got into classes, it kind of reassured me. I was like, all right, I'm on the right path here. And it helped me create a community here. Like, there are a lot of actors in town who, I'm really great friends with, and you kind of bond all being in the same kind of struggle, striving for the same goals. So, I enjoyed, I still try that. I'm not definitely in a place to say that I've reached the peak of acting and I don't need to take classes anymore.
Yeah.
So if I see a workshop or a class or something that, still really appeals to me, or they're, working on a technique or something that I'm not familiar with, then I'll try to get in on it, Do
you have like a favorite memory, like a favorite, a favorite experience that's happened to you in acting class that always like sticks with you? A moment?
I had a really great workshop with this guy, Sam Christensen, who was a casting director out in LA for a long time. And it was an essence workshop where it kind of worked on kind of seeing how people view you. And because that's a big thing, going into, when you're an actor, you're kind of constantly selling yourself, and you are your brand in a way. And it's kind of important to understand how people see you and to kind of really break away from the ideas that you've kind of built up about yourself,
Yeah.
So this class or this workshop really worked on that. And it was kind of crazy because those, doing things or doing these exercises that really were kind of just blowing me away and like completely changed how I thought people saw me. Going in, I very much had an idea of what people thought about me. And then I went through the class and I finished, and I was like, wow, I was really wrong, But knowing that really helped me going into, read for other roles or going in to see casting directors and understand what the energy is I'm putting out. So that workshop was a huge turning point for me.
I mentioned earlier, you've had a few roles in various TV shows. What's been your favorite?
Man, Lodge 49 was a real special project. I've been very fortunate in my career to be a part of some really cool projects, and especially this new show, Hightown, I'm super excited about, but Lodge has a special place in my heart. The story, the actors, the cast, the crew, everything that they put together on that project. Getting to work with, Wyatt Russell and Tanya Cassidy and Dave Pasquazi and, so many great, talented people. And outside of being actors, they were just awesome human beings.
Yeah.
And that character, like the moment I read the breakdown for him, and I got the sides, I was just in love with him, and there was just something really special about the show. And unfortunately, they didn't get to continue on with that story. But for a lot of people, I still have a lot of people reaching out to me and telling me how much the show meant to them and how much it still means to them. And I think it was just a real special project. Yeah.
And you had your first film debut in Dumb and Dumber 2 with Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels.
Mm-hmm.
How was it being part of something like that?
That was surreal. I had been watching the original movie since I was a little kid,
Yeah.
and not just the movie, but just watching Jeff Daniels and Jim Carrey since I was a little kid. So initially, when I did the audition, it was so with the breakdown, it was like a Canadian undercover agent, and I was like, and I hadn't booked a film role before that. So going in, I'm like, well, I don't know, but, I'm going to, give it the old college try. And, I mean, obviously, if I got this, it would be awesome because it's, Dumb and Dumber, the sequel to Dumb and Dumber 2. And I did it, and I never heard anything back for a long time, as what happens with many auditions. Yeah. But and then they called me, and they told me I got it. And I was just like, are you kidding? And it was like my agent, the office called me. And it was like everybody in the office was on the line because they were just so excited because they knew that this was my first big film booking, and also that it was this film. And I was just like, I was like speechless. I was blown away. Somewhere in my mind, I probably thought was like, there's no way this is going to happen, but it did. And I had to work 3 days altogether. The first day was, I think it was 3 days. But then before that, they had had us come in for a fitting or whatever. And I met the Fairley brothers that day, which was just like, oh gosh, like I was like, that was cool enough. But then when the days that I actually had to work with Jim and Jeff, Jim Carrey came up and he introduced himself. And that was like, I mean, obviously everybody on that set knows who he is.
Yeah.
But he actually, he saw me and he came and he was like, hey, my name is Jim. And I was like, hey, I'm Atkins. Nice to meet you. But just the fact that he took the time to come and say, hey, was just like meant the world to me, And it's like, here's this guy who's like a hero to me, and he's coming and he's talking to me. And it was like very much having to walk the line of I'm here as a professional trying to work, but I'm also like a super fanboy of what's happening right now, So, yeah, that was a crazy situation.
I've had past guests on that have worked with Jim, and they say he's just like a normal guy when you're sitting there talking to him and working with him. He's like, he doesn't think like he's better than you or anything like that. He's just like down to earth.
No, yeah. I mean, like I said, just in the fact that he came to say hello, and
Yeah.
I did have a chance to speak with him while we were on set. Now, when he's working, he's brilliant, but also you have to be on your toes because he's doing something different almost every take, And if you're not ready, he's going to make you break or something like that. You have to be very prepared for what he's going to do because you never know. But, having a conversation with him, just like a really great person, very nice, very kind. And, for me, it's just being my first time on a major set. It was like I couldn't have asked for a better experience, Right. And I actually had a moment. We were on a break in between shooting, and Jeff Daniels was on set at that time as well, and he had this little travel guitar with him, and I was like, I had spoken with Jim, and I had a moment with him, but I hadn't said anything to Jeff yet. So I was like, we're kind of sitting there, and I was like, man, I'm gonna go say something to him. So I walk over and I'm like, hey, how's it going? And he just looks up to me and he goes, do you play? And I don't know if he didn't hear what I said or if he just was like, if he thought I was asking about the guitar or I don't know what happened. But I was like, yeah. So then he hands me the guitar, and I swear in that moment, I couldn't remember a single thing I had ever known about a guitar. Like I was just like, my mind was just, it just flew out of my head. I don't know if it was just like being nervous or what, but I'm sitting there and he's looking at me like, do you know how to play the guitar? You know, but slowly but surely it all comes back. And I start playing and he starts talking to me about it. And that was also like a cool little moment that I had with him then. And it just added to the overall experience being so well. And then also just getting to be a part of that world, you know, it is very much a kind of full circle kind of thing. So I couldn't have asked for a better first film to be on.
Right. So now, now you have a new show coming out on Starz called Hightown, which is going to premiere in May.
Yeah.
For the listeners, really quick, tell us what the show's about.
Yeah, so the show, it takes place in Cape Cod, and it follows this woman, Jackie Quinones, played by Monica Raymond. And essentially, she's kind of this hard-partying marine fisheries officer, kind of like, I guess you'd be like a fishing game or fish and wildlife officer. And she lives in Provincetown, and this whole thing gets kicked off when there's a murder and she finds the body. And it's kind of like her journey through sobriety. And I think that finding that body is kind of the catalyst to that moment. And this investigation kind of pulls all of these different people together that are, attached into this world. And it's a really, really cool show, man. I'm super excited about this project, and I'm really, really hyped about it coming out.
How did you hear about this project? How did you get involved with it?
I was actually, I was getting ready to start season 2 of Watch 49, and a little while before that, I had an audition for it. I actually had an audition, a couple of auditions for it, but then the audition for this role, Osito, came up. And, in the breakdown, it was like hitman, just a really bad dude. And I had never, ever booked a role like that. So, I mean, I've gotten plenty of auditions like that, but I've never booked a role that was a quote unquote a bad guy, antagonist, villain, what have you. And so initially, when I was looking at it, I was like, I don't know if this is going to be one for me, But like I said, anything I get, I'm going to give it my all, and I did the work. And I sent it off, and I kind of just forgot about it, I mean, I was just, you get a lot of auditions, and you kind of just send them off and, move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm getting ready, and this was a while ago. So I had assumed that it wasn't, it just was another one of those ones that kind of, went away. And as we're getting ready to start season 2, my agents are like, hey, before, you guys really get into things and you start signing contracts and stuff, just so you know, the Hightown thing is in place, so you might want to kind of hold off on that. And I was like, oh, okay. So I was like, I thought that was not a thing anymore. And then eventually they come back and they're like, oh, they want to fly you out to test. So I went out to LA and I tested. And a few days later, they called me and they told me I got the role. So yeah, initially it was just, an audition for my agent out in New York. And it, over the course of time, just kind of turned into this thing that it was kind of a surprise to me, honestly. I wasn't 100% sure when I sent out that audition that was going to be my role, but here we are.
So you play Osito, right? How would you describe his character?
Mm-hmm.
How would you describe him?
Osito is he's a hitman, and he's working for this guy, Frankie Cuevas, who's played by Mari Nolasco, who's fantastic. And essentially, I'm his kind of like his cleanup guy. When somebody needs to disappear, I'm the guy that's making them disappear. And but he's not just like the thing that I really like about him is it's deeper than just being your typical gangster. There's heart to him, and he's not just a psychopath. I don't think he takes any joy in killing. I think it's for him is just a job, you know, and he approaches it very much in that way. Like, you know, just like anyone else, like, if you're a doctor, you go into work and you see some patients, you know, for him, he clocks in and he might have to shoot somebody that day, you know? But I think that it's just that for him. Like, it's not personal for him. It's just a job. But there is something deeper to him, and there is some heart there, and you find that out throughout the course of the show.
So, what do you think was the biggest challenge like you encountered, like connecting with the character?
I mean, man, it's like I said, I hadn't really had. I mean, just to start, this is one of the biggest roles I've had. But also this is definitely a big departure from, you know, the stuff I'd normally done, which, you know, either comedies or just kind of normal characters in a way. So this was, approaching this was a little bit different, but through reading the pages and understanding him, I realized I had to come from just a place of being grounded and being a person, you know, to start with. And so finding that wasn't necessarily the hard part, but it was getting into the darkness of him and what he has to do. That was really tough. And trying to make that real and not make that a character, you know, trying to keep it honest and real and be like, he's the dude who kills, but not make it just like, oh, he's just like this sort of a monster that's just there, you know, making it be like, this is a real person too, you know? But there's some moments and some scenes where I'm like, I had to kind of take a step back and be like, whew, this is heavy, you know?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's a real testament to the writing and how just really exciting of a show this is.
So this takes place at the Cape. Where was it filmed?
It was filmed, a lot of it was filmed in New York, actually.
Okay.
So I was up in New York for about 4 months working. And we did a lot of stuff out in Long Island, around Bayville. And they actually did have a couple days in Cape Cod and actually in Provincetown. But I actually didn't have any days myself there. But there was a day, like I want to say maybe a week or so, that they were actually shooting in location there. But for the most part, it was either, you know, in Long Island or stages in Brooklyn.
How many episodes were filmed?
8 episodes.
8 episodes. Yeah. Which one?
Yeah.
I usually ask, you know, my guests, like, what's like your favorite scene that you were in, everything. But obviously, we probably can't talk about that because you don't want to spoil the show. But what episode do you think is your favorite that you were in that you want the listeners to pay attention to?
Oh, that is a good one. There's a lot of good ones. I would have to say that episode 7 is a really good one. That was also one of the more challenging ones for me, but it's one that I think is you get to see a lot of dynamic moments with him. So yeah, I would be on the lookout for that one.
All right. So you know, you've been acting for a few years now. Like, who would you say are like some of your influences in the acting world? Is there anybody you look up to?
Ah, man, yeah. I love Jack Black. I'm a huge fan of Jack Black. Forrest Whitaker, Denzel, Will, Kate Blanchett. I got a lot of different. I'm very much a fan of, you know, films and TV and stuff like that. So I mean, long before I started, so there's a lot of different types of projects that I watch and a lot of different people who inspire me and I draw things from. But yeah, some of those people, just to name a few. I mean, you know, Meryl Streep, Viola Davis. I mean, I could go on. There's many people who I watch their stuff and I'm just like, either it's like it pushes me, like I'm like, oh man, I got to step my game up, or I'm just studying and learning from them, you know?
Yeah. So on your downtime, what are some of the shows you're catching up with in movies?
I recently went through the most recent season of Curb Your Enthusiasm, which
I love that.
I thought was just I thought it was like Larry David. I mean, obviously he's brilliant, but the whole Fight Store thing, like I was just like, this is hilarious. Like that's a show that I was like, God, I wish I could be on that. You know, just the smallest role, I would be totally cool with being on that show. I recently finished The Outsider, which I thought was awesome. Like if I just have something on in the background, like just kind of not really, or like, you know, something I don't have to be super focused on. I like to watch Nailed It. My wife's a big fan of that show. There's a lot of different, I mean, there's so much great TV and stuff out right now to watch. And obviously there's plenty of time to catch up on it. But yeah.
Where do you see yourself 10, 20 years from now?
10, 20 years from now, hopefully still working. 10, 20 years from now, man, I'd love to have a career like somebody like Jim Carrey, you know, being able to do some comedy that's the kind of comedy that people think about over the years, that somebody can like be like, oh man, for 20 years I've been watching that movie, you know, but also be able to like slam dunk some real meaningful drama as well, you know, the stuff that really talks to people and really tugs on their heartstrings, you know, the stuff that the stories that people can really relate with and mean something to them. So if I could have, you know, a career like that where I can make people laugh, and I mean that's the whole thing I love about watching movies and TV. You know, you see something, you see a story play out, and the emotion that it can bring to you. You know, either you're going to be happy, you're going to be sad. You know, and you can draw from your own experiences. Just something that means something. If it means it's going to make you laugh, if it means it's going to make you cry, if it means it's going to make you think about something, having a career that can bring all of those things to people for a very long time, I think I'd be very fortunate to have something like that. And yeah, that's what I would shoot for.
That's awesome. Do you have any other projects that are coming out this year?
Right now, Hightown is kind of my main focus, and I'm just like waiting to jump on the next thing, and you know, get back out there and keep making the work.
Yeah, hopefully things will start picking up soon.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of a weird time for actors right now. Like, I know a lot of people who are in some tough situations, you know, because, you know, by nature of our business, you kind of have to be around people, you know?
Right.
So, I have a lot of friends who are in some tough spots, and I know that all over in the industry, a lot of people are kind of like, you know, looking like, you know, and then also because a lot of actors also work in the service industry, because, you know, not every actor is fortunate enough to only act, you know. So I know a lot of people who are getting squeezed on both sides, and it's kind of tough right now. But I feel very confident that, you know, and really I'm just trying to stay positive and be like, hopefully, you know, things will kind of maybe not get completely back to normal, but into a place where productions can kind of get back going. And that's another thing. It's not just actors, you know, it's people in crews who are also feeling the effects. I mean, the entire industry is in a bad way right now. So. And I mean, and it's not the only one. Let me not just say actors. I know everybody. There's a lot of people who are in tough situations. But just to bring it into that, you know, hopefully we can get back to work.
So, Atkins, how can the fans and the listeners find you on social media?
Okay, well, I'm on Instagram at Atkins Estimond and also on Twitter at Atkins Estimond. So you can keep up with me on both of those. And I post, try to keep it very interesting, but a lot of it is my daughter. So
nothing wrong with that.
But she's pretty good.
I got two kids. Yeah. I got 2 kids. There's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was like, I didn't realize, like, after I had my daughter, I was just like, oh, so this is your Instagram now. I'm just running it, you know? But, yeah.
Atkins, this was fun. Thank you for coming on.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you, man.
That's a wrap. That's a wrap, everybody. That's a wrap.
Thanks for listening to the Man Cave Chronicles podcast.
I finally get my man cave.
You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at the MCC Podcast and our website, themccpodcast.com. Until next time.